live.
Okay, thank you, and good evening everybody. If I can just take a moment to bring this meeting to order, we're just about to start. And can I offer a very warm welcome to those attending the petition hearing this evening for the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Growth. And of course to our viewers who are watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. By way of introduction, my name is Councillor Steve Tuckwell and I am the Cabinet Member for Planning, Housing and Growth, and I will be chairing this evening's proceedings. Details of the business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible online and underneath the live broadcast. For those present in the room and intending to speak this evening, please note that you will be filmed and any statements you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible online if the microphone is switched on, and we'll direct you through that for those speaking. Some housekeeping arrangements in terms of evacuation and fire alarms. We're not expecting a drill this evening, but if the alarm does go off, please follow officers either side of me to the fire exits and out of the building onto the designated meeting points. Can I ask that those people that have mobile phones or tablets, can they switch them off or at least put them to silent before the meeting starts? Although myself and officers supporting the hearing this evening will have our devices so that we can view the agenda paperwork. Meeting feedback. For those in the public gallery, you'll see some brightly coloured yellow forms, and they are feedback forms that help us improve these meetings as we go forward, so the feedback is quite valuable. And for those watching online, there is a link underneath the broadcast where you can also leave your feedback this evening. So that's the housekeeping. I'm just going to do some introductions. So I've just done myself, Steve Tuckwell. To my right here, we have David Knowles, very experienced officer here in the London Borough of Hillingdon, who is also our Head of Transportation, and he will be supporting tonight's hearing with some of the technical elements and actually doing most of the heavy lifting, certainly in dealing with these petitions. We also have here to my left Naveed Ali. Naveed is our Democratic Services Officer who helps keep these meetings running and also in line with our Constitution as well. Okay, so we can now get into the actual agenda. Excuse me. Agenda item 1, declarations of interest in matters coming before this meeting. Are there any? I'm going to declare one, and I'm going to declare that the item number 4 this evening is for the Fairway South Ruislip, for which I am a ward councillor, and I'm also going to declare that I'm also a member of the WhatsApp group for the Fairway as well, so I just need to put that on public record. Agenda item 2 is to confirm that this evening's business will be taking place in public. There are some meetings in the council where there are private items and they're not recorded and members of the public aren't allowed to attend, but that isn't this occasion for this particular meeting. And agenda item 3 is to consider all of the reports this evening for officers to consider all the reports this evening following the petitions received. So that's the starting point of this evening's meeting, and we can now start to get into the main body of the agenda, which is agenda item 4. Your starring moment has come, which is the Fairway for South Ruislip, a petition for traffic calming. So before you start, I'm just going to explain to you how it works, and it'll be the same for other members in the public gallery as well. You'll see in front of me there's a traffic light system. The Constitution stipulates that petitioners have a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. We do time that, so there'll be a green light when you're on 1 to 4 minutes. On amber, that will be 4 to 5 minutes, and when it goes red, that's your 5 minutes is done, and I will bring you to a very, very polite conclusion. If it looks like you're coming to an end, we might give it a couple of seconds. If it looks like you're going to go on a little bit, then I will, bring proceedings to a close. For councillors speaking this evening, the Constitution says you have 3 minutes to address the committee, so they get 2 minutes less, so they have to speak quicker. So that's how that works, and I'm now going to invite you, Joe Saber, to talk to us about the Fairway and the petition that you've pulled forward on behalf of your residents. So when you press the microphone, Naveed will start the clock. That's it. Is it on red, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hello, my name is Joanne Sieber and I've lived on the fairway in South Ruislip for 26 years and I've seen the escalation of speeding over this period of time. The problem: the fairway is a residential street. It is home to families, elderly residents, and importantly is a route that children use every day to walk to and from a nearby infant school. We also have now a daycare nursery located along the fairway. Our road is increasingly being used as a cut-through by drivers seeking to bypass congestion on nearby routes, and it has been like this for many, many years, and it's getting worse by the day. The result is that cars frequently travel at excessive speeds far beyond what is safe in a community setting. Cars are accelerating hard down the straight sections, sometimes overtaking recklessly because they are impatient and showing little regard to any road safety. The impact: the consequences extend beyond road safety. Parents are understandably anxious about letting their children walk or cycle. Older residents feel unsafe simply crossing their own street. The constant noise of speeding traffic undermines the quality of life that we should expect in a residential neighbourhood. A street that feels dominated by through traffic drivers having absolutely no concern of awareness for driving safely. I have stood for a short period of time at certain spots along the fairway to witness how fast the cars are going. Cars that are coming in from Long Drive End, the speed increases up to the green area by Angus Drive. When reaching the cross-section of Queen's Walk and the fairway, the cars are cutting the corner and coming onto the fairway at speeds at the wrong side. Residents have said that near misses are a concern, sometimes avoiding a head-on crash. Implementing an island or raised area so that this can deter the problem, this would be better. The cars then increase in speed from Queen's Walk to Field End. The solutions: this is not an unavoidable problem. Across the borough, councils have implemented a range of proven traffic calming measures. Options for and against: speed humps and cushions are more evasive, and we are led to believe that the road is always classed as an emergency 999 route and therefore not a viable option. Implementing chicanes: the narrowing will be a problem with cars coming to the middle of the road to avoid the bump. The need for clearer speed limit signage and road markings to remind drivers of the need to be cautioned and to keep the speed within these markers. The best option is the implementation of speed tables, as they are more of a gradual rise but still acting as a deterrent for slowing vehicles. The fairway would have to have several placed along both sections to bring the speed to the reduction. Previous data was collected from using the pneumatic tubes across the road, but these were placed at the top of the fairway by Field End Road, which was completely the wrong place to have them placed, as the cars were not showing any signs of speeding turning into the road, thus giving incorrect speed data. They would need to be at least placed down halfway each of the sections of road. We need to have multiple tubes to gauge the speed activity and be put in the correct place to give a true reflection. Residents have said over the past few months cars have been damaged while parking, so this is no doubt attributed to cars going too fast and not being able to stop. Cars are turning at speed from the fairway towards Angus Drive. Children crossing the road don't get priority. The cars just speed past on the wrong side. I find the constant speed worrying. This is highly populated residential road. I have to cross every day with a pram and a toddler, and it feels unsafe to do so. Large vehicles are parked on both sides. They create blind spots. Children are unpredictable, and drivers are going far too fast for a serious accident to happen, and that is one driver too many. I'm a proactive member of the fairway, including Neighbourhood Watch and a police warden member panel. Our local police team are in full support of this petition. A message from Danny Beals: the safety concern on the fairway, I could ask the council to take action and address these concerns. The online petition, and even more concerned families beyond this. There is a strong support for effective traffic calming measures. The call to action: we recognise that the council faces many competing priorities, and it's no secret that the council is facing severe financial cutbacks to many services, but it's clear that we have grounds to implement measures to make our streets safe. These measures are not about penalising drivers, they are about protecting people. They restore balance, ensuring that a road serves its residents as much as it serves those passing through. On behalf of us all, I respectfully urge the council to listen to our concerns and to prioritise traffic calming measures on our road. By doing so, you will not only address a clear and present hazard, but also demonstrate your commitment to our community safety and to the well-being of all that live in the fairway and in South Ruislip. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Oh my goodness, okay.
We'll take a moment to draw some breath.
Have to breathe.
4.5 minutes, so you
okay, that's
did
pretty
well
good.
there.
Okay.
Well there. Very impressive. Okay, no, well done, and thank you for coming here this evening on behalf of your neighbours and the fairway, and for taking us through your thoughts. Couple of questions from me. Angus Drive.
Yes.
I know there was a supplementary
yes.
set of comments were put forward.
Yes.
Can you just for mine and David's benefit, we are going to talk about this in a bit more detail, and then we're going to hear from Councillor Mills as well. Just talk to me a little bit about your concerns on Angus Drive.
So I think because of the speeding in the fairway, the Angus Drive has a very wide opening on one side for the left and the right, coming out and then coming in. So very often as not, you have the speeding cars that want to come down actually and entry the road to the right side, which is the wrong side of the road basically, because they're impatient. I've been there many times where that's happened, and I think for people crossing that part of the road, they're actually having to look both ways, which they should anyway, but more so for the near misses of just impatient drivers. So I know that's been an issue that has been raised, and I think that feeds into the speeding element of that happening as well on that junction. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you live in the middle of the fairway. How often would you say that you see speeding vehicles?
I live on the section between Queen's Walk and Field End Road, so I'm more up that sort of further end. I can sit in my front room and I can, even before I came tonight, I probably counted in excess of 15 cars that went past at speed. You can hear them. Sometimes I go out onto the pavement, and I've actually had a couple of cars, one of who I've reported to our local police. That is a serial person that does it nearly every single day. And I think times have changed, there's more cars on the road, and I think the fairway, even though it's a very long stretch of road, I think we need to have something. Our residents are speaking from the heart. They're contacting me pretty much every day, separately from the WhatsApp group, to raise their concerns, and I'm really trying my best to try and put that forward for something to happen for the future. Yeah.
Well, getting to this point is no mean feat. We've got some other petitioners here who will be after you as well, and I think, to be congratulated for the effort that puts in to get to this point. I do appreciate your time on that, and I'm sure you've got some neighbours watching you on YouTube as well. Final question for me, and then I'll ask David if you've got any questions in relation to historic accidents. I mean, you've lived there a while, I take it. What's your view on?
Yeah, I think the problem that we have is when there is a serious accident where you have emergency services, that was probably more option to have it recorded down as something that's happened. The near misses that we have, the residents that have said that parked cars are being shunted across driveways, luckily no one is walking on the pavement at that time. They're all the ones that aren't in the reports that you would know about. So I think it's really important to think, if you're basing it on actual accidents that have been reported, then there's a bit of a disservice to us as residents who probably wouldn't go down that route from the emergency services point of view. Yeah. They might have to just sort out through their own insurance. If it was a recorded thing, I think it would be really, really high, really high.
David might touch on that a little bit, which is a nice segue over to David.
Yes, obviously in a minute, Councillor Mills, I'm sure will want to say a few things as well. I mean, thank you very much, very good testimony and very good evidence. I've made lots of copious notes. I've taken the point on board that you said the surveys that we did previously, you didn't think were in the right location. So one of the things, you won't be too surprised that we would be asking you and your colleague from the ward, ward council as well, to identify where, if we're going to do some surveys, if that's what Councillor Tuckwell believes we should do, where they should be. That way you've got a chance to influence the location. So I think that's a good point. In terms of speeding, also I noted that you are already talking to the police. Excellent. We always say that's one of our points of advice to people is please do raise these things with the local neighbourhood team, because they can be our allies. I mean, if they support what you say, that's a very good argument for members to know that there is not just somebody that's one group, but all the police support it is an excellent thing as well. In terms of speed tables, my only caveat, and I'm sure Councillor Tuckwell would say the same thing, is be careful what you wish for, in as much as everyone wants the solution, they don't want them outside their house. But if we get to the point where we're considering the possibility of speed tables, a consultation would be done with all the residents in the road. So it's not a case of the council suddenly comes along and puts these things in. There's a consultation, and that's required by law. So we'd have to do that, and we would do that. We'd probably start with an informal consultation, and say, what do you think about these proposals before we do anything more formal. Just briefly to touch on the fact that Angus Drive and the junction there, I mean, I think you've said that people sometimes drive around the wrong side of the island, which is atrocious, frankly, atrocious behaviour. Is that a certain time of the day or the week or?
Any time. I've witnessed it myself, and I think the problem is that if you don't have equal road markings, that it looks very inviting coming from one side of the fairway coming into Angus Drive. It's basically just impatient car drivers. It's very clear that there's two entrances and exits to the road. That either needs to be either sort of completely blocked off, and then have the entrance and exit on the other side where there's more of an equal marking on the road. The markings are all completely wrong. It just gives the wrong impression, and it just invites people to just do a cut through. Well,
obviously subject again to what the members decide tonight. I think that's some particular location we would look at. It depends on the nature of the offence, whether it can be enforced by the use of a mobile camera. Certainly our civil enforcement officers, the people that go around with the green jackets and issue, but they're obviously stretched because they can only be in so many places at any one time. And my last point before, obviously, your ward council comes in is to say, very useful that you mentioned schools, and it so happens that we are very much engaged in programmes of working with the schools. We've got a team that go meet the schools, and they again can be useful allies. I don't know, have you spoken to the schools at all?
I haven't. I previously worked for Field End Infant School, which is the school that's up at the top of the road. I've left there now in the summertime, but we have a lot of cars parked in order for parents to walk into the two roads, the top on the Field End road and also Mount Pleasant as an entrance. So we have a lot of families park their cars down our residential street in order to access the back entrance to the school and the front entrance. So for me, I think it's very much that's obviously busy times in the morning, and it adds, impatient drivers, people getting to work, and it is a cut through. It's been a cut through for as long as I've been there, 26 years.
Oh yeah, it's well known as a cut through, of course. All right, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you raised the point about schools, because we need to consider that. So you've got Field End, you've got St Swithun's, you've got Little Stars Nursery,
which has just opened.
And then you've got Deansfield just a little bit further down. As well, so we'll account for those. But you'll be pleased to know I don't think there's any further questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you can go and take you can sit there if you like, and then we'll invite Councillor Mills to come and talk to us.
Shall I turn that on?
You can leave that on. That's fine. So, welcome, Councillor Mills. I don't think a member of your length of service I need to explain how the traffic light system works. So I think for some unknown reason councillors only get 3 minutes, but I think over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for taking the time to hear from us tonight. Won't be a surprise to you, Councillor, that I'm supporting the petitioners in what they're looking to pursue this evening, and also you'll know well from your experience and proximity the challenges that speeding exists on the fairway, effectively in both parts either side of Queen's Walk. I'm aware that historically work's been undertaken in terms of the previous surveys, but again, as the petitioner mentioned, residents would probably question where those strips are put, and as Mr Knowles has already alluded to, I think what would be really helpful as one of the recommendations to come from this evening is to involve residents as part of that process going forward, so that they have an input into where those strips go, because their local knowledge is extremely beneficial in terms of understanding where the main pain points are. I think obviously it's worth doing this across, if we're doing this exercise, we should do this across all parts of the fairway, not just the sort of the highers or the lowers, given the comments that have been made around it being a large cut-through from Victoria Road down to Field End Road. Obviously, in the lower numbers at the minute, we've recently had installed the sign around notifying people of what the speed limit is, but as you will know, and as members of the public will also know, large numbers of drivers who don't drive well will still ignore those signs, and they actually don't have too much direct impact on those that are unable to keep to the speed limit. I think the fact that the road is used for school drop-off is again something that's particularly viable and encouraging that you've already picked up on that through your questioning. I think one of the other parts that is something obviously that you have to consider when you look at what some of the options are is whether if we look at raised tables of some of the options, where you're able to put those, because obviously where households have driveways, that obviously limits where we're able to put those along the roads, and that's something that residents have to be cognizant of as and when the scheme progresses. But from a high level, I think in terms of the points that have earlier been made and the responses to the questions that have been given, I'm fully supportive of the residents' views in terms of that something needs to be done here. I think that the survey is certainly the first step in terms of doing that and involving them as part of that, but also being transparent in terms of what the outcomes of that are. So the fact that those tests are done at certain times of the day, how those are done, what those thresholds really mean, because again, otherwise if that data isn't presented back, it can be a bit of a disappointing or / dead end, as I think may have been previously experienced by some residents, that they undertake this lengthy process, they commit themselves to a petition, they give up their time, and then feel that sometimes it doesn't really go anywhere. So I think the end-to-end process is something that we need to make sure of is fully supported throughout this.
Again, we're within time. Well done. No, thank you, Councillor Mills. It's good that you've taken time out to represent your residents. So you make some really good points there. I think the crucial point that I think we need to pick up is the outcome of the survey. And I like the end-to-end process. So, you know, we need to make sure that all of the effort that's gone into the sea, and it'll be the same for the other petitioners as well, all the effort that's gone into getting to this point, you know, you can see exactly what the result is at the end of it. But David will talk about how those results are collated and who does it and how they're pulled together. Quick question for me, Councillor Mills. It was mentioned earlier on about the police. Now, we know speeding is a police issue. You know, we can design our highways to try and reduce the speed, but the actual offence of speeding is something which is very much a Metropolitan Police responsibility. What kind of involvement have you had with the local SNT and Met Police in relation to the issues here in the Fairway?
Yeah, so positively, I think, as mentioned earlier, like again through the lead petitioner attending the Safer Neighbourhood Team Ward panel, South Ruislip one, that it's been raised with the local police already. So the local Safer Neighbourhood Team, again, people who you know well, are aware of this. That this has been raised as a local issue. They are keen to also support this. That's something they've sort of spoken to me offline about. In a perfect world, they would like to be able to be along this road with their speed guns, but obviously one of the challenges they have is around officers being trained and financial challenges within the Met in terms of those guns being calibrated has sort of restricted the level that they've been allowed to do that. But in terms of conceptually, it's an issue that they are aware of, they are supportive of, and they would like to sort of work collaboratively with us to see what steps can be taken to improve this, which ultimately comes down to the safety of residents along the road.
And I know very well that you lead out on the relationship with the police in South Ruislip as well. So well done for picking that up and getting them involved in this early stage, which is important. David, any questions from you?
No, not really. I mean, I think the point we're making is about choosing the locations. Now, we can do that now, which is quickness. Or if you mention that the fact there are other residents, if you want to take it away and come back to me via, Councillor Mills, it's entirely your call. I've got a little map here which shows you the road, and all the red dots on that plan are in fact lamp columns. And you might think, well, why is he showing all of the lamp columns? The problem is these survey tubes, we have to clamp them. We have to padlock them basically to a lamp column. Otherwise, and you can imagine some of the people who don't like the thought of being caught might actually try and remove the equipment. But it's a useful way for us to identify locations. So it's your call. If you'd like to do it now, you're more than welcome to do so, or to take it away and send it back to me subsequently. It's your choice.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll just wrap up. And then whilst we're getting ourselves organised for the next petition, agenda item 5, if you just want to quickly come up with Councillor Mills and just, because that was a really important point that you raised.
Yes. In
relation to previous surveys, and I'm sure other petitioners are just picking up on this as well, but that was a really important point you raised about it's really crucial that they're located in the right area to try and catch.
I think it's probably best if it's taken away. And also, I think one of the other parts is, again, whilst Joanne's here as a speaker tonight, there's a number of other residents who are passionate and involved about this, again, sort of watching online rather than being able to be here in person. So I think it's best if that's a collaborative approach.
If that works for you, that's absolutely fine. Happy to do that.
I think just on the last piece which was mentioned around Angus Drive, I think if work is being done, I think that's worth being looked at in collaboration as part of this exercise if officers are sort of covering this area. Again, Councillor, you'll know through the chairman of the ward panel within the area that is a concern that he's raised a few times around people effectively cutting off that corner of the fairway where it goes into Angus Drive, it's sort of, it's a second part of the fairway, right? You know, where the fairway forks on that lower numbers part. It's for those that don't know the road well, it's potentially hazardous that people are driving on the wrong side of the road. So whilst the road markings are an issue, I think again the poor quality of driving probably causes a greater issue, and road markings don't necessarily solve that. It almost needs a physical barrier to segregate, to make sure people drive on the right side of the road, which is a shame that we have to go to that length for people to understand that, but that's probably the reality of the world we live in.
Okay. Right.
My one quick point was to say, so if excuse me, a question, if you're taking it away, some people say, well, how many can we have? I mean, I would suggest 4 or 5 is probably a reasonable number. And they do cost money, but they're not an absolute fortune, so they're not going to break the council's budget. So, but by all means, at your leisure, take that away and feed it back to me, or via your councillors. It'll get to me. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the point was made there by Councillor Mills is that we're going to do the whole, the both sections of the fairway. And it is a very long road. It's not quite. Well, the one next door is called Long Drive for a reason, isn't it? And it's a similar length. So yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll determine how many tubes are needed. But okay. Well, I have to now do the formal bit and wrap this up, and then we can move on to the next agenda item. In the paper that was circulated, there are 4 recommendations, and I'll just run through those. The first recommendation is to meet with the petitioners and listen to their requests, which we've done. The second recommendation is to note the previous surveys that were undertaken in 2018, 2020 and 2021, and now we're going to add 2025 to that. The third recommendation is subject to the outcome of the above. Decisive officers should commission an independent 24/7 speed survey on the fairway at locations agreed with petitioners, which is the debate that we've just had. And the fourth recommendation comes on to Councillor Mills's point around Angus Drive, which is to ask officers at the council's parking enforcement team to investigate options to enforce against possible traffic contraventions at the junction of the fairway and Angus Drive. But I think I need to add to that, we need to be looking at, is there a highways engineering solution that can come up with that as well. So if we can add that to the recommendation. So it's not just about enforcing what's there, it's about, is there an engineering options, and we would do that through consultation, through your councillors and through the Safer Neighbourhood team as well. So I'm going to be recommending, or be approving those 4 recommendations with that slight tweak to the 4th one. You okay with that? Okay. Right, that's the fairway concluded. Thank you very much. I know we've taken a bit of time, but that was quite important that we did that. Thank you. Okay, draw breath for a second. And then we move on to agenda item 5, which is Isles Road, Yeading. So we have here Anita Willis. Is that you, Anita? Yeah, if you could just come forward. Take your time. Let you get settled.
You need to press the red button.
So, I'm not sure, was you in the room when I explained how it all works?
I think so.
Yeah, so you've got 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yep, okay, I don't need to talk you all through that again. You've obviously picked it all up. So, when you're ready...
Right. I'm Anita Willis from the Barn Hill Estate Residents Association. And we feel we have a problem with Ailes Road. If anyone is familiar with it, it's a 2-sided road with green in the middle. It goes from north to south and then south to north. And at the moment, it's 2-way traffic both sides. On the paperwork you did send me, you said about the accidents reported to the police. I think the accidents reported to the police are only if someone is actually injured, whereas other accidents would only go through insurance companies, so I don't know about that. But basically, this is a main bus route for the E9 bus on both sides, and thankfully they do treat it as a one-way and down the other. With the width of the road being, as you said, between 5 and 5.3 metres, it's impossible for 2-way traffic each side because there's always cars on one side parked permanently. It's always full. And if you take the width of a double-decker bus at 2.55 and the average car being about 1.82, that's 4.37 metres. So the width of the 5 to 5.3 doesn't allow any passing of vehicles. What happens at the moment, particularly if there's a bus or something coming through, or a van, or even a car, it becomes a sort of standoff position and confrontation. And I think these days most people would prefer to avoid confrontation because you don't know what the end is going to be. It's also a very serious position for any emergency vehicles trying to access properties in Nails Road and beyond. With any vehicle larger than a car, the buses, dust carts, etc., have to dive into the green between the two sides of the road. This road is also very often used as a cut-through from Kingshill Avenue to go along the Greenway and then basically out onto Yedding Lane, in avoiding a large corner of traffic. On GPS and Google, strangely enough, it already has that Ailes Road is a one-way system, up and down. Because I don't know how they get that information, but that's what it's all got. Okay. Also, coming from the Greenway to get into Ailes Road, it's a side turning as well as the main road exit. So if a car comes in that way, you're not aware of it until it's actually on the Ailes Road. Now when it meets up with a bus, there's nowhere for anyone to go. Buses aren't going to go backwards, cars have to go backwards, out back onto a busy road. You did note that you thought a one-way system would interfere with the attractiveness of the current system, which I really don't understand. You know, with the traffic's going one up and down like that, whether it would do anything like that at all. I mean, as far as the speeding is concerned, this is a major problem affecting the whole of the Barnhill estate, but that's mainly on straighter, longer roads. We do have 2 breaks in Ailes Road, so anyone living on Ailes Road don't have to go the whole length to get to their parking spot or to the house, because there's 2 intersections.
Can I just ask if you should bring the microphone a little bit closer to you?
Better?
That's perfect.
Right, okay. Yes, there's 2 intersections, so it is not inconvenience people to get to their parking spot at all. And because those 2 intersections, it does have an effect on speeding. I don't think that would be much of a problem. It's a very busy road. It has the Barnhill Community Centre on one side and it has St Raphael's Church on the other, which attracts a lot of car parking as well. And that ends my words on it.
Well done, well within the time, so you've obviously practised.
Yep.
Okay. David, I'm going to let you go first with some questions here, because I can see the issue here. I can see what the petitioners are actually telling us, but I'd really be interested, sort of, got the report in front of me, but I'd be interested to hear.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I mean, yes, in practice, particularly with the operation of the bus, it tends to force the issue, and it tends to be one way in each direction. And that is a possibility, that it could be conceivably made formally one way in each direction. I also take your point that you've said that in practice most of the people park on one side of the road, so therefore it works in practice. The only thing I would say is that we need to have the views of the people who live in Ailes Road. Now, with great respect, your petition is a well-supported petition, but not many of the people who signed the petition actually live in Ailes Road. Quite a few, and I agree, it's the Barnhill estate concern, and it's everybody is perfectly entitled to a view, and it's good to have that feedback. But clearly we will need to do our own informal consultation with all the people who live in Ailes Road to see what their views are. I'm not saying, I mean, they may exactly reflect what you've told us.
If I could just say, one side of Ailes Road is predominantly flats, and we have no access to get into the flats like we do an ordinary house, and there's only a few houses in Ailes Road.
Okay, I mean that's perhaps something that we can take on board. But if we did a consultation, then we would do it by postal means anyway. So and we usually give people reply to unpaid envelopes, so we give them the opportunity to respond to us, and we encourage them to do so. One thing is to say, occasionally we say to petitioners, obviously there are people who have supported you, and they'll say, oh great, you've done all that now, thank you very much. Well, if the council is going to come back to people asking them, as the council asking from their views, it's still important that they provide their feedback, because it helps members make their decision. I think you'll probably find you'd have support, particularly from the bus operators. It's clearly that's an issue. The only thing I'd say, when people ask for one-way working, and in fact this practically works as one-way most of the time, apart from the odd people that go the other way, is that one-way working can, if everyone knows it's one-way working, they can go faster. It's a fact. So people just need to be mindful of that. Sometimes if people don't know if it's actually formally one-way or not, there's sometimes, and I say the responsible drivers might actually go a little bit slower, but that sort of thing would be teased out if Councillor Tuckwell is prepared to go that far from a consultation, that we get people's views. So I think, thank you very much indeed for setting that out to us. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much for hearing us.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions before you go. I think it's mentioned, and David's just referred to it there, that there's kind of an informal one-way in place at the moment. Is that correct?
It's informal with the buses.
Yeah.
They only go up one side and down the other.
Right.
Because they couldn't even fit in the road.
Yeah.
And people like myself treat it as a one-way system, have done for 72 years that I've lived there. But a lot of people don't. And it's this people coming in at an angle, and it's the confrontation, which I think is dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Yeah. In this day and age, sadly.
Okay. 72 years, wow. You know the road exceptionally well then.
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that's why we need to listen to your views. But David's absolutely right. We can't just go ahead and do these things without having a round of consultation, or possibly 2 rounds of consultation with residents. And we'd probably need to involve Transport for London as well in that process, because it will have an impact on their bus routes. But I'm just going to ask David a question. This has sort of got a Column Avenue feel to it in Useley. You know the one? Yeah. That's pretty much exactly the sort of same configuration, isn't it? So, and that's got a one-way system. So, okay. Councillor Farley, were you speaking on this one? I'm not more councillor for that one. You're just here to lend support, yeah? Okay, fine. No, I think we'll have to go by the constitution. Naveed's like close to giving me a little kick if I stray from the rules. But no, it's good to see you here anyway. Right, in terms of recommendations, then we've got 2 listed on the documentation. One is to meet yourself, and thank you for taking the time to address us this evening. 52 signatures is no mean feat, so well done for organising that. So that's the first recommendation. The second one is subject to the outcome, subject to the discussion we've just had or still having, is to ask officers to undertake an informal consultation on a possible one-way working in the agreed area with ward councillors, which I'm prepared to do. So I'm going to approve both of those recommendations, and we'll see what the consultation responses look like. What will happen then is David and his team will present that to me. It will take a few weeks to organise, but it'll go out by post. They'll return envelopes as well. We'll collate all the answers, and then David will do another report, and it will show us what those consultation feedback looks like. And then it'll be up to us to decide if there's an appetite for it. Do we have a mandate to proceed with it? Is what it's all about. But given you've got such a well-supported petition, I don't anticipate any problems there, but we'll see. Is that okay?
Yep, that's fine.
All right, so both of those recommendations approved, Naveed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Let everybody get settled. Agenda item 6 now, which is Crowland Avenue, the Pinkwell ward, petition for speed humps. So, Mr. Barabir-Thind, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
You had your briefing earlier on.
I did have my briefing, yes.
You've seen how the traffic light system works, so won't need to take you through that again. But when you're ready, sir. over to you.
Yep. So I'll start by thanking the esteemed Cabinet members and the panel and the responsible officers and the author of the report. It's obviously due to your lot's efforts that we are able to speak about this issue, and I'm here to present on behalf of the petitioners. So I want to pass on that gratitude from the petitioners and myself to you all. I'll start off with context, and then I'll like to speak quickly about some of the report statements made, and then we'll end hopefully in a swift conclusion. So for context, Crowland Avenue, our beloved neighbourhood street, is becoming more of a racetrack as days pass. So I've lived on the corner of the road, on Station Road, for 23 years. That's my whole life. And it's frankly disappointing to see the deterioration of safety for my neighbours, friends and family who all reside on this road. This is a sentiment that's felt by all residents of the road and those who use it and live nearby it, who regard the road as now the car tester, as it's known for its reputation as somewhere where people will try out how fast their cars can go. It's a long stretch of road, so there's quite the opening for it. Having this reputation, seeing the disappointment, I took the initiative as a young member of the community with a little bit more time and effort than the others to put into this petition. But even sadly, when we were getting signatures, many of the residents expressed the fact that they've lost hope for a solution, some even remarking the fact that it'd be quicker to move house than see a fix, which was unfortunate. But I hope to prove them wrong, and I wish the council would strive to do the same. In terms of the report, I did want to quickly focus on the contents and a few points. So, firstly, at point 3, it states that in the last 5 years there have been 6 recorded incidents, all classified as slight. These recorded incidents themselves are troubling. However, I do want to make it known that it's the unreported incidents that we are petitioning for. Frankly, no one has the time or capacity to report every single car that overspeeds, and if they did, it'd have to be a full-time job. I even took it upon myself after work to take a stroll down and try and record any cars passing, but frankly, you see the first 3 digits of their license plate and then they're gone. I would also like to say that the loud revving of the engines causes noise pollution, so obviously as the car speeds, the exhaust pump spits out. Sometimes it sounds like guns firing. That is all due to the opportunity to speed on Crowland Avenue. So that is another incidental occurrence. I would also say that, sadly, many residents have abandoned reporting to the police now, as they see it as a long-term issue that is just not resolvable by the police. They understand that they don't have enough resources to put someone there every day to judge the car speeds and see how many are coming and going. So I'd like to request that you don't take those reported incidents as the only portrayal of the real situation, as it's not close to the danger or the risk that the residents face on a daily basis. Quite briefly on point 5 and 6, I'd like to mention that what was stated was an array of effects and possible solutions, possible effects that the solutions could have, including the increasing noise from passing traffic or the loss of parking or even the visual intrusion. I almost want to promise as a resident, but as someone who already communicated with many petitioners, that no increase of noise could be louder than the revving of the engines at the moment. And the visual intrusion, though it may intrude, it would be much safer for our elderly residents and our young residents who use these pedestrian pavements or cross the road on a daily basis. And I'd also say that many would actually welcome the loss of street parking, as many believe it adds to the incidents. Many people will park on this residential road, go to their work through the station, Hayes and Harlington, and loads of those cars will speed past those parked cars, causing collisions and obviously restricting the view from the pedestrian pavements as well. In terms of the solution, lastly I'd like to say that the speed humps, I think on point 4 were mentioned as not being issued in the borough or not used. I think that may have been a fault in our wording. I think it may be a technicality. We're not looking for sleeping policemen if they are not being used in the borough at the moment. We are quite simply requesting any speed enforcement through a permanent fixture which we evidence all speeders, something that car drivers can see and take it as a warning that if you want to speed, you might lose your wheels. So this could be, for example, speed cushions, speed tables, or I think I researched and there's a difference between speed bumps and speed humps. But they are present through the borough. We saw an installation of something similar on the High Street towards Sipson and Cranford Lane recently being installed, and that also is a road where buses and emergency vehicles go through. So anything like that on Crowland Avenue would be much welcomed, and I hope you take that on board and today pass a recommendation that helps protect neighbours, senior residents and other pedestrians. Thank you.
Just a tad over, but you were coming to a natural end.
I was trying to,
anyway there, but no, well done, and thank you for a very articulate response to the petition. So I was able to visualise what you were talking about there, and particularly when you referenced the car tester. It's got its nickname now. And it's not good that residents have lost hope. That's not good. We're here to put residents first, as it says behind me, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to listen and work in partnership with residents across the whole borough to ensure that we can, give you peace and tranquility in your corner of the world. Have you had any involvement with the local police?
So I myself personally have not.
Right.
When I spoke to the residents that actually live on the road,
Yep.
They've said that in the past they've communicated it to the police.
Okay.
I even think there was an elderly gentleman who in his day started a petition but sadly passed away, and this was from the elderly residents who were informing me before my time what had happened. So at the moment, no. We have started a neighbourhood watch scheme. That was something I organised for our local area, and I have told people, obviously, any evidence you can provide, any recordings, please report it to the police, and that's not with the intention to obviously harm the drivers, but it's the intention to get rid of that reputation that this is something that can be passed, and we won't do anything about it. But sadly, I don't think it can reasonably be enforced by the police. It's gone to the point where even when I'm working from home, sometimes I'll have to tell my colleague to repeat something because I can hear the car speeding alongside Crowland Avenue. So yeah, it's sort of gone out of hand now.
Yeah, okay. The reason I ask that is because it's the police that enforce. The council doesn't enforce speeding drivers. We can design the highways to reduce the risk of it, but the actual prosecuting people is very much a role for the Metropolitan Police. But that's something I think we can take away with our connections with the police. Because there are some things that we can suggest to the police, and as you might have heard from the previous petition, when you have a good relationship with your local police, you can actually get them out to do things like community road watch, which will involve residents in actually having speed guns in your road, and we can look to doing things like that as well and recommend that. But that's outside of this. I think what I've also noticed is quite a lot of pavement parking in your street, isn't there?
Yeah, Crowland Avenue.
In Crowland Avenue, that kind of widens the road up a little bit, doesn't it?
So, from how I understand it, because this was something that was happening on Station Road as well, is many of the residents will have driveways and dropped curbs. There'll be gaps between when there's a dropped curb and not, and that's where many people who are non-residents will park their cars and then make their way to Hayes and Harnton Station. That's not too far. So when I came to that point, what I meant was the fact that if those cars stopped parking there, if anything, it gives more space for this two-way road, and at least it's not a scene where you've got two cars speeding at the same time from opposite ends and then sort of meeting a collision at midpoint. But I would be hesitant to now state that we should get rid of the roadside parking, because I wouldn't know who's a resident, who's a non-resident. It might be that they're looking for extra parking if they've got three cars. So it's not a bonus, but I wouldn't call that the main problem either.
No. And the constant sort of revving of engines and speed, is that something do you think is organised, or is that just your sort of
it's not organised
day-to-day?
We've just got fanatics in our area, I guess, car fanatics, but it's not organised at all, no. Because
I know not too far from you at the Asda,
there's
been some car meets, isn't there?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Asda car park seems to attract organised, and they go on Facebook and they have all kinds of.
Well, it's not planned, but they've also put speed humps there in their car park to get restrictions to those car meets.
Yeah, it's private land, and Asda.
Yeah, well, of course.
Done something in a store not far from me either. So, okay, David, any
Yeah, okay. Well, again, thank you very much, Mr. Thin, for a very good presentation. You actually, in your closing parts, picked up some of the things I was going to ask you a question about anyway, so well done. Obviously, it is a bus route, the E6, which serves Greenford Station all the way to the Bulls Bridge, so via Hazenheim, very, very popular bus route. What that means is it does sort of govern the sort of traffic coming, but you picked up on speed cushions, and speed cushions would be the sort of things that would be allowed. Speed cushions, of course, the idea is that a large service vehicle like a bus can go through fairly unimpeded, so Granny on the bus doesn't find her false teeth falling out, but a car will feel less inclined to race down there, so that is a possibility. In terms of the problem with the vehicles parking down there, well, of course, you'll be aware of the fact that it's a hail and ride bus route, so buses don't have formal stops down there. That's something we've had discussion about with TfO in the past, because there was concern about formalising the parking, because there would be a concern that a loss of parking, and as you rightly alluded to, the fact that we don't know what the residents would feel down there. They do have the possibility of asking for parking management schemes down there, but I know that wasn't something you asked for in your petition, so that would be a separate discussion to have. And so I think what we would recommend is that if Councillor Tuckwell is prepared to do that, is we would do a survey, and you heard the way that we do that. So I've actually got a plan of Crowland Avenue, and you'll be able to say, well, I think this is where the speeding problem is the most acute, and then we can look at that from there. So I think that's probably enough from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Back to the report. Yeah, I think there's some things we need to look at here, without a shadow of a doubt. There's some unique characteristics in this particular road, and notwithstanding a bus route as well, we need to take that into account. But we do need to do something in terms of understanding what is the scale of the problem, and that, as a consequence of that, then we can start to design some solutions and some options. And we'll do that with you. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to do that in isolation. We'll make sure we come back to you and use your insight, as you have a wonderful insight into your road, so we'll make sure that we deal with that. There's two recommendations have been put forward, which is one, to meet with yourself, and then, subject to the outcome of this discussion, do our traffic surveys. And David, do you want to sort of explain how they work, those surveys?
Yes, so the well-known tubes across the road, and people say, how do they work? There's some sort of magic science behind them. They can tell you obviously the time the vehicle went over it, what speed it was, what type of vehicle it was. It can tell you whether it's a lorry, a motorbike, and we would do them in sensible times. We wouldn't do them in school holidays. We'd do it at busy times, and we use that over usually a sort of 10-day period. It's there full time. Sometimes we might find, you mentioned the fact that people use it as a testing street, that we might find that regularly they go through, 1 o'clock in the morning, for argument's sake. If we get that sort of information, we straight away pass that to the police, because the police can go down there at 1 o'clock in the morning and say, thank you very much, here's a ticket. So it's useful for that. It also is regarded by the police, funnily enough, as the most reliable form of speed and traffic survey measurement that you can get. And what comes out of it will be a whole load of data, which we then will summarise to make it more digestible, if you like, and tell you which direction they're going and what sort of time of day. And then we look at something which is called the 85th percentile speed, and that sounds fancy statistics, but what it is, it's more than the average. It's the speed at or below which 85% of the traffic is going. So in other words, it's a pretty good measure. Yeah. And we use that because if we find, for example, that the survey shows the majority of vehicles are behaving, then it means there's a lesser priority perhaps for this scheme than it might be for one of the other ones that might have been heard tonight. It's the fairest way to do it, because everybody gets a fair do of it. Of course, that's not the end of the story. There has to be the dialogue with the members, and in this case, I think we might want to take it away and talk to the bus services, because of the fact that the E6 goes down there. So I think that's useful information. And I'm not quite sure whether you mentioned about the accidents. You did, I think. You're quite right. The survey data that we have, again, is the police data, and they only report incidents to which they attend. And they are, again, only ones where there has been a minor injury or a collision like that. But again, in the round, if you look at all the boroughs, and we're the second largest borough in London, when we get these issues put forward, then Councillor Tuckwell and his colleagues are thinking, well, what's the priority? Is it Crowland Avenue, or is it, Fairway, or... It's an important aspect, but you're quite right, he doesn't tell you the whole story. If somebody has a fender bender, it doesn't get reported to the police, but you, the residents, actually experience it, and that's where your testimony in an event like this is really, really useful. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, and I think it's important. Near misses are important. We can't always track them and measure them, but near misses are an important factor that we need to take into account. So, but no, thank you for representing the residents of Crowland Avenue this evening. It's been a pleasure to hear your testimony, and as I say, you articulated yourself really well, so congratulations. We're going to approve those two recommendations, Naveed, and we'll get cracking on the traffic surveys and start the journey of improving the highway amenity for the residents of Crowland Avenue. So well done, and thank you for addressing us this evening.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah, and is that something I email back to you then?
Well, you can do it now, on one side, mark it on a bit of pen or something like that and say where you think that the survey locations would be ideal. Or you can email it back to me, I don't know.
Just take a bit of time and just leave it there, we'll pick it up.
I might email it to you because I think it'd be better to ask the residents as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, right, that brings us to the final item, agenda item 7 this evening. We're slightly over time, but we've had some really good scrutinising conversations, which is what this process is all about. So agenda item 7, Park Avenue Ruislip. The Ruislip Ward, petition for speed humps. And now I can see in the audience 2 elected members. But we also have a written statement from the lead petitioner, Sanjay Korea. So, Naveed, you okay to read that out?
The lead petitioner has stated, Park Avenue already has speed bumps across the other half of the road, not the side the lead petitioner currently resides on. We have multiple speeding cars down this road which presents a high level of danger for the young children and older residents. We have an increased number of these people speeding down as a shortcut to avoid the traffic on East Coast Road. We feel that it will be a matter of time before there is a serious or fatal incident if this matter is not addressed. Having a speed control introduced physically on the road will help to reduce the number of people speeding down our road, in the hopes to save a few minutes of traffic time on East Coast Road. This is especially dangerous as the road merges with Elm Bridge Drive on a bend, where at school times it gets very dangerous with a constant barrage of speeding cars.
Okay, thank you, Naveed. And Sanjay, if you are watching, I'm sure you heard your comments there, and we'll now debate those once we've heard from your ward councillors. So, 2 ward councillors, 2 for the price of 1. Over to you guys. I think you know how the timing works, but as there's 2 of you, that's 6 minutes in total.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're very, very well aware of speeding on a number of our roads in our ward, and indeed, I think we've observed before that the general standard of driving seems to have taken a bit of a plummet in the last few years. Park Avenue is a very long road, often with cars parked on both sides, which of itself can sometimes assist with helping to calm traffic. And we very much appreciate what the petitioner has said about the configuration of the road and the fact that it's used as a connecting road, if you like, to avoid other main roads. And very often when walking down that road, we've seen the effects of how traffic behaves. As I know only too well, the use of physical speed mitigation is not always one that is advisable, because very often our experience is that even if physical mitigation is put in, sometimes other residents are concerned about the fact that physical mitigation has been put in. It can be quite noisy, it can be quite difficult for certain types of vehicle. So there is a balance to be struck. There are, there are different types of physical mitigation, rumble strips, as well as speed humps and tables. But what we have found consistently throughout the ward, and indeed the borough, is that the use of the dot matrix signs that either count people down or have smiley or little devil faces or 30 mile an hour or 20 mile an hour flashes on them are quite, they're very positive, and the reports back from other residents are that they're very useful. So we do support, or I do, and I think my learned friend has a different job. I think my colleague, Councillor Smallwood, supports the intentions of the intentions of our residents. But it may be that some investigation needs to be had in terms of the data that we can gather about speeding, and then we can take some activity and some action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Smallwood.
Thank you. Thank you to my learned friend for his as ever interesting intervention. I've just written a few things that I'll just go through, and I just wanted to thank everyone who's raised the concerns about speeding in Park Avenue, and I completely understand why residents want to take action. Road stage issue is an issue that we should all take seriously. That said, having spoken to many residents on the doorstep, having seen screenshots and seen the WhatsApp group that they have as a road, and through social media, I've heard quite a mixed picture on the feedback. I wouldn't say it got into an argument on the WhatsApp group, but there were certainly some mixed views. And while some are understandably worried, and probably most are worried about speeding, others have expressed concerns about speed humps and bumps, and that could increase noise and vibration, or even affect, I don't know whether this is true, but they were one greater concern about affecting property value if they were directly outside of their house. The council report notes that only a small number of minor incidents have been recorded on the road in the years. However, this data doesn't always capture everything, as we know, which is why I think it's a sensible next step to carry out a proper independent speed and traffic survey. I agree with point 8 of the report, which proposes potentially commissioning independent 24/7 speed, traffic and surveys on Park Avenue, and I'm sure we would engage residents to find out where they might go well. This would give us an accurate picture of whether speeding is a real and ongoing issue, and to what extent. And then I think if that does come out, we can have a open and frank conversation with residents, because I think the petitioners' intentions are sound, and I think they carry the whole road with them. I think potentially the mechanism is the thing where there may be some disagreement. Once we have the evidence, we can look carefully at what options might be most appropriate, whether that's targeted safety measures, working with the police, which Councillor Riley, Councillor Cawthon and I do through the ward panel and beyond, or other improvements that balance safety with residents' quality of life. We, as Ruislip councillors, two of us here today. Our other colleague would have been here to make the perfect three, but he's on mayoral duty. So we'll make sure that all the views are heard, that we work closely with residents, and as we do on a regular basis, bang on doors, speak to them on social media and find out what people are thinking. So I would look at going with the recommendations, and very keen to see a traffic survey so that we can take it from there in the future. Thank you very much, Chair, and now my learned friend will take questions.
Okay, what a double act. It looked like you rehearsed that, possibly, but no, but thank you guys for sharing your thoughts and for representing your residents so well, as I know you do on a daily, weekly, monthly and yearly basis. So well done for your continued representation. Councillor Smallwood, you mentioned the work that you do with your Safer Neighbourhood team. I just wonder if you could expand if they've got any concerns or fears about what goes on in this particular. Has it come up in any of your ward panels or anything like that?
It has not. I don't think it's come up for you. It's not come up in ward panels. I think there was some previously, because there is speed mitigation in the road, but I think the challenge is, as always, everybody agrees there's a problem, but not everybody agrees on the solution. But I've not had the police or the ward team get in contact with me about it. And my colleague is shaking his head too.
I think it's and something I will take forward to all petition hearings is it's important to have these things raised at ward panels. I think because as we've said with other petitions this evening, it's the police that enforce the speeding as well. But we need to do as much as we can to mitigate how the highway behaves so it can reduce the impact of speeding. Councillor Riley, did you want to?
I was just going to observe that there was a time when we could ask local policing maybe to do a speed gun event, maybe over a month or so or whatever, just to assist with the impression and or the reality of speeding. It's a difficult one because very often the perception of people when they're pedestrians about speed is different to that which we discover when we do our surveys, and it's always a bit of a tension between what people feel and what the data shows us. But nevertheless, what people feel is important, and if they're concerned, as our petitioner and others are, at the way in which vehicles are behaving, then that's something that we can look at and talk to them about.
I think the initiative you refer to there is the Community Road Watch, which I think we need to try and engage further with the Metropolitan Police to do more of that. It is their responsibility to enforce speeding. It's our responsibility to put in the measures that reduce the risk of it. Any questions, David, from you?
I'll just make a couple of observations, really. I think they echo what you've said. I mean, the interesting thing about Park Avenue is, of course, at one end you actually have the width restriction. So, interestingly enough, from the mindset of the residents, the vehicles that are likely to be going through Park Avenue are not lorries. That's quite something. I mean, you might have vans might go through. So the problem that we have with skip lorries in other locations, unless of course it's somebody doing a development in this road, is somewhat minimised. Having said that, I think the point that was made, obviously Councillor Small has picked this up, is that everyone agrees that there is a problem, but when the solution involves something outside their house, they may have second thoughts. There are some speed tables already in the road. It would be probably prudent for people who are experiencing those already. Do they find that they actually are effective, and are they happy with them? If other residents are talking amongst themselves, maybe they can share their views. That would be useful to find. But I think fundamentally that the survey, as you've all supported, I think would be the most useful thing. Let's establish the patterns of behaviour. And I think if people were listening to the earlier presentation, as Councillor Riley, you know this from your time as portfolio holder, is that we do these surveys at sensible times, so we don't do them in school holidays. We do them when the roads are busiest, and we do them over a 10-day period. It's entirely independent of the council, so no one can say that we fixed it to suit ourselves. It's a company that does the work for us. And it provides very useful information.
Councillor Tuckwell, I don't know whether should you be minded to recommend in a few moments' time, which I'm sure you will, for the survey to take place. If we do find there is a problem and we do need to look at potential mitigations, I don't know whether it would be possible to probably go to what is the unusual step of actually when we do an informal survey or an informal consultation or a formal consultation, of actually almost doing it in two halves, of actually doing one half of what do you want outside your home and what don't you, and then, as Mr Knowles has just very eloquently described, actually part of it, what is your experience of the speed tables there. I think that would be very important. I'm only looking ahead. I don't want to second guess whether your decision this evening, and I don't want to second guess the outcome of speed surveys, but I think that would be a thoroughly interesting way forward.
The other thing I would say, and I agree with that, the other thing I would say is that having it in one's mind's eye, where the current physical mitigation is, that leads up to the width restriction, as it were. The issue highlighted by the petitioner was the part further down, I think, or further away from the width restrictions, as it were. So you often see people slowing down for the physical mitigators on that stretch and then speeding up after the last one. The other thing that I would say is that our experience on Eastcote Road, you'll remember, where a raised table was put in, was not an easy one because of the use, inevitably, of Eastcote Road by big lorries and as you would say, certain types of trucks that rattle like anything as they go over a raised table, and residents nearby have been very vocal about that. So I don't say be careful what you wish for, but I do say that in some areas the physical mitigation becomes more of a problem than it solves.
Yep. Absolutely, and I think the expression "careful what you wish for" is something that we've used in this petition setting on more than one occasion, and we've even had examples of where raised tables, speed humps, whatever you want to call them, we've actually been requested that they be taken out as well as a result. So we do need to be mindful of that. But I think the important thing is to get these two recommendations sorted. So recommendation 1 is to meet with yourselves and also to read out Mr. Career's statement. So I hope you're still watching, Mr. Career, and thank you for submitting your statement. The second recommendation is to approve the commissioning of traffic survey for Park Avenue at locations agreed with petitioners and ward councillors. Now you can either take that away, guys, you know how it works, so you can either take that away and let David know where they should be positioned. You can either do that after the hearing or you can just email it in. But I'm happy to approve those two recommendations. And thank you for your time this evening. Okay, right, that brings us to the end of the proceedings this evening, and I would like to thank my two officer colleagues for really supporting me and doing most of the work actually this evening, so I very much appreciate your support. I'd also like to place on record my thanks to the petitioners who, as I've said a couple of times, getting to this point takes an awful lot of effort, and we've seen some very well supported petitions this evening, so I'd like to place on record my thanks to the petitioners for leading on that. And again, this is another example of Hillingdon Council putting its residents first. So we'll bring this meeting to a close, and I wish everybody a good evening. Thank you.